Chapter 251, Let him kneel. Where is teacher? Wu Zhangkong asked once more as he subconsciously tousled Shen Yu's hair. Tears began to pour out of Shen Yu's large, evergreen eyes. Dumbfounded, she threw herself into Wu Zhangkong's arms. Senior brother, she said, choking back sobs. The pitiful sound of her weeping attracted curious glances of passers-by. Shen Yu's white hair was extremely easy to recognize even without taking her fame within the academy into account. Isn't that the white-haired witch, senior sister Shen Yu? What is going on with her? She never smiles and all the juniors are afraid of her. What's she doing? Who is that man? He's so handsome. Whoa. He seems sort of familiar. Who is he? As a stream of chatter reached Wu Zhangkong's ears, he patted Shen Yu on the back and said, let's go. Shen Yu raised her head sheepishly, her eyes still full to the brim with tears. You're still my senior brother, right? Wu Zhangkong forced himself to form a bitter smile. That isn't up to me. Let's go, he said as he dragged her by the arm, taking large strides toward the inner city's core. Teacher is in the inner court, Shen Yu said softly as she wiped away her tears. Inner court. Wu Zhangkong began to shake at the words. These words used to be an important part of his life. He had worked tirelessly for them, but as a result, he had also, forcefully taking a deep breath, Wu Zhangkong abruptly released Shen Yu's hand and sprinted madly down the street. He rapidly accelerated toward the eastern part of the inner city, air chilling in his wake because of his exertion. Shen Yu hastened to catch up to him, dashing forth in pursuit. Soon enough, a building surrounded by a tall, mossy green wall came into view. The wall prevented anyone from seeing what lay beyond it and converged on a lavish archway. At the top of the archway, the words inner court were visible on a sign that hung from it. There were no guards manning the gate to the inner court. In spite of this, Wu Zhangkong's swift approach came to a sudden stop once he saw the sign that read inner court. It was there that every fiber of his being froze. It was as if those words possessed an infinite magical power. This was, without a doubt, the legendary inner court of Shrek Academy. This was the place that enjoyed continent-wide fame, one which countless soul masters yearned to enter. This was the place that struck fear into the Federation. Lush greenery covered all of the inner court. Only geniuses privileged enough to enter it would know that it resembled a park. Guards were not needed here. The words on the sign were enough of a deterrent. Senior brother. Shen Yu stopped by Wu Zhangkong's side, having finally caught up to him. Don't call me that. I'm no longer qualified to be your senior brother. If teacher hears you, you'll be punished. Wu Zhangkong dropped to his knees as he spoke. Like jade pillars and mountains of gold crashing to the ground, the normally arrogant and stern white-robed man with the blue sword had suddenly kneeled before the inner court sign. Shen Yu's heart trembled, but she did not comment on what just happened. Instead, she simply said, wait here, senior brother. I'll go get teacher. She sucked in a deep breath, then charged into the inner court as swift as the wind. The turbulent emotions inside of Wu Zhangkong gradually settled down as he continued kneeling on the ground, and a sense of peace washed over him. A cool breeze swept by, carrying the refreshing scent of nature that could only be found in Shrek Academy. The air of this place was humid and aromatic, perpetually bringing warmth and serenity to the people present. Finally, I'm back. After 13 years. Today, I have returned. As he kneeled, Wu Zhangkong felt that everything was currently as it should be. 13 years ago, I was so impulsive and proud. Now I'm able to understand, but can I get back what was lost? I'm sorry, Binger. I'm sorry, teacher. It was all my fault. Binger, just wait for me. I will preserve your name with my battle armor. We will be together forever. As long as you desire it, I will not hesitate to sacrifice everything for you. Time ticked by slowly, yet also quickly at the same time. When Shen Yu returned, Wu Zhangkong was already immersed in his own reminiscence. She approached Wu Zhangkong, face pale, and her hesitant footsteps came to a stop a short distance away. Moments later, she gathered up her courage and stepped in front of him. Teacher doesn't want to see you. Shen Yu's voice wavered as the words left her mouth. Amen. Thank you, Wu Zhangkong replied softly, his tranquil attitude undisturbed. He continued to kneel as he had been doing. Hesitation showed in Shen Yu's expression, but in the end, she spoke up. Teacher said, just let him kneel there. Wu Zhangkong lifted his head, trembling as he stared at Shen Yu in astonishment. He was trembling because he understood that his teacher's fury was no reason to be terrified, but his teacher's disregard certainly was. As long as his teacher was angry with him, he still had a chance. Thank you, Shen Yu. Wu Zhangkong bit his lips as he continued to kneel, his back straighter than before. Just keep kneeling for now, senior brother, Shen Yu said. You know what teacher is like. He spouts harsh words, but his heart is soft. When I told him that you had returned, I could see a trace of joy in his face for a split second. He couldn't hide it at all. He still cares deeply for you. After another round of persuasion, I'm sure he'll forgive you. Wu Zhangkong shook his head gently. I don't deserve teacher's forgiveness, but for the sake of my disciples, I implore you. Amen. Shen Yu turned around and re-entered the inner court. The sun is going to rise soon. Why hasn't teacher Wu come back yet? She paced around the room anxiously. After Wu Zhangkong left, he called them once to tell them he was handling business and that they should return to their rooms to avoid disturbing Tang Wulin's deep meditation. Instead, the three stayed in Wu Zhangkong's room and meditated while waiting for Tang Wulin to awaken. They had opened the door just a crack to take a peek at Tang Wulin, but Gu Yue and Xu Xiaowen faces turned crimson when they saw him soaking in the bathtub naked. Gu Yue had immediately covered Xu Xiaowen's eyes with her hands, leaving her own eyes wide open to take in the sight. A moment after that, Xi took the high road and peeled them away from the doorway, depriving both of them of the eye candy that was Tang Wulin. With Tang Wulin stuck meditating and Wu Zhangkong gone, Xishi's heart was in a frenzy. Although he had resolved to stick with Tang Wulin, taking the entrance exam would still be the best outcome. They were currently 13 years old, and in another 3 years, they would be 16. They would be too old to take the Shrek Academy entrance exam by then. This was their only shot at entering Shrek Academy, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Gu Yue, the calmest of the three, sat cross-legged in a chair. She had been thinking about something ever since she saw Tang Wulin soaking in the bathtub. Let's just wait, Xu Xiaowen said meekly. Xi, can you stop walking in circles? We've already made our choice. If we don't end up taking the exam, we'll just treat this trip as a holiday and nothing more. In any case, we're on vacation right now. Once Captain wakes up, we can go sightseeing at Shrek Academy. At the very least, we can have him treat us to dinner. I bet his cheeks will be sore considering how stingy he is. She giggled at the thought. Xi made a strange expression because he knew it was true. Aside from the bare necessities, Tang Wulin hadn't paid for anything else. All of his money went into his savings. He rarely went out to eat because the price to fill his stomach was simply too steep. As the sky slowly began to brighten, Xishi's impatience disappeared. He knew that it would be too late even if Tang Wulin awoke at that very moment. Time waited for no one. Their room was quite far from Shrek Academy, and the exam would start in 1 hour. Even if they left right then and there, they still wouldn't make it in time. If they missed it, they missed it. Although they would have some regrets, all of them had decided on this, valuing their comrades more than Shrek Academy. Gu Yue's eyes shut opened, her gaze directed at Xi. I'll stop mocking you in the future. Huh? Her sudden statement had Xi at a loss for words. Chapter 252, The Breakthrough of the Second Seal. What do you mean? Xi eyed her with suspicion. Gu Yue said, I guess you can be considered a male. His voice held a flurry of annoyance. Are you saying you treated me like I was a girl before? Gu Yue giggled, a glint to her eyes. You can take it however you want. Then, Xu Xiaowen approached Xi and latched onto his arm. So we're actually a group of sisters. I wouldn't have known if Big Sis Gu Yue didn't tell me. He rolled his eyes in exasperation, lips pinched as he rested his arm free. You girls are always bullying me. I bet you don't have what it takes to mess with Wulin. Oh, whatever. I'm hungry now. You two guard him while I get some breakfast. Do you want me to bring anything back? Gu Yue nodded. I want meat, steamed buns, juice, and yogurt. Oh right, some vegetables too. Xu Xiaowen counted on her fingers as she said, I want some bread, jam, yogurt, and a fried egg. Actually, make that too. Yeah, I'm still growing after all. Xi said, yeah, growing as round as a fried egg. He knew enough to run off after his snarky comment, escaping before Xu Xiaowen had the chance to erupt. Not long after his getaway, there was a knock on the door. He's back so quickly. Xu Xiaowen mumbled as she walked to the door. However, when she opened the door, the person outside was the white-haired lady from yesterday rather than her teammate. Oh, it's you. Auntie, where's teacher Wu? Xu Xiaowen asked. Shen Yi entered the room. Your teacher is fine. He's just taking care of some matters for you all at the academy right now. Has your captain awakened yet? Xu Xiaowen shook her head. Not yet. A sigh escaped Shen Yi's lips. Then all we can do is wait. When he's conscious, I'll bring you all over. Confused, Xu Xiaowen asked, You're bringing us over? But it's already too late. Shen Yi wore a faint smile as she tousled Xu Xiaowen's hair, the same way Wu Zhangkong had done with hers the day before. Don't worry about it. Your teacher has already settled things. Your tests might be a bit harder, but you still have one last chance. We'll depart once your captain is awake. Really? That's awesome. Teacher Wu's the best. Xu Shaoan bounced with joy. Although they had sacrificed the test for Tang Wuling, having both was still the best. Missing this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity would have been a tragedy. Gu Yue stared at Shen Yi in surprise. She hadn't expected a second chance, and it was as if a heavy mountain had been lifted off of her. In the washroom, Tang Wuling remained soaking in the bathtub. The water had lost some of its heat, but was still lukewarm. Golden mist gathered in the air, shrouding his body in a radiant haze. Have I succeeded? Inside of his spiritual world, Tang Wuling found himself in the mystical hall once more. Compared to the first seal, the second one was much easier to break. After the initial sensation of being boiled alive, he grew accustomed to the pain, feeling his blood rampage through his body as the latter transformed. From then on, the process was painless. Later, a mysterious sensation filled him. Just like the first time, his senses had dulled to the point where comprehending the situation was fruitless. The only thing he could make out was the shattering of something within his body, the jaws of danger closing in on him. During the breaking of the first seal, he had endured unspeakable pain, as if his entire body was on the brink of explosion, so much so that death would have been a sweet release. This time, however, things were different. While he had felt something fill his body, he did not feel like bursting at the seams. Any semblance of pain had been a hollow image of itself. That's right, you succeeded, Old Tang said, chock full of satisfaction. Old Tang appeared near him in a flash of light, his body clearer and more human-like than before. Old Tang smiled. How do you feel? Tang Wuling said. Good. It wasn't as painful as the first time. Old Tang said. That's because you're more prepared this time. Both your body and soul power have made remarkable progress in the last 3 years, especially since your soul power is compressed by your new cultivation method. It has refined your meridians and increased the load that they can bear. You also found high-quality spirit items this time. All of these factors ease the process. Tang Wuling rejoiced. That's great. I didn't waste my time then. Old Tang, what changed with my body this time? I remember back then you said there would be a nice surprise for me. That's right. There's a surprise. Old Tang said. But you need to go experience it for yourself. I suggest you don't worry about it for now and instead focus on breaking the third seal in the near future. Tang Wuling laughed. Isn't the deadline when I'm 20? I still have 6 years until then. That's plenty of time to prepare. Old Tang seemed to arch a brow. Who said the deadline is 20 years old for the third seal? Tang Wuling stared back deadpan. But isn't it? The deadline should be 5 years apart, and I've broken the second seal 1 year early. 5 plus 15 is 20 years old. Old Tang shook his head. No, that's not how it's calculated. Your next seal needs to be broken by the time you turn 16. In other words, you have 3 years left. 15 years old was the absolute latest for the second seal, and the earlier you break a seal, the easier the later seals are. The countdown for the next seal to be broken starts immediately after you've breaking the previous one. So, you have 3 years to prepare. Tang Wuling stood dumbfounded. Are you telling me the time between seals is going to continue shrinking? Old Tang said. That's right. It shortens each time. You'll be under a lot of pressure from now on. This shocking revelation wiped the smile right off of Tang Wuling's face. If the time shortens after each seal and there are 18 seals, then just how much time will I have for the later ones? And if I fail to destroy a seal, I'll probably die. What is the minimum amount of time I will have to break a seal in the future? Old Tang said. Your preparation time will shorten by 3 months each time. After the 9th seal, you will only have 1 year to prepare for each. Tang Wuling let out a long sigh. 1 year per seal after the 9th seal? Can I manage that? He may have broken 2 seals already, but only now did he realize how menacing they were. I'll tell you what you need for your next seal. But before that, let me remind you that the more your body and soul power progress in the next 3 years, the easier the unsealing. You will face a tribulation if you're not prepared, and you might even. Tang Wuling nodded in silence. He understood what Old Tang implied. Several spirit items popped into his mind. He first checked their prefixes, and was relieved to discover that they were 1,000-year spirit items. If they were 10,000-year items, you would have just given up right then and there. Chapter 253. To the exam. You can go now. Continue working hard. The world before Tang Wuling melted away, fading into nothing. Cold. His eyes shot open, surprised to find that the bathwater had cooled significantly. Still, it was refreshing for him. Tang Wuling looked down to inspect his body but didn't see any drastic transformations. Then, a visceral clawing need within the pits of his stomach had his mind elsewhere. I'm starving. How many days has it been? Climbing out of the bathtub, he dried himself and quickly dressed, in a hurry to stave off his hunger with food. But when he opened the washroom door, he nearly jumped with fright. Instead of Wu Zhangkong, 4 people sat in the room, one of which was an unfamiliar white-haired woman. He hadn't seen her during his trip to Sky Sea City years ago. You're finally awake. She leapt toward him. So I woke up in time? Seeing them, his hopes rose. There should still be time before the exam, otherwise, his teammates wouldn't be here. She grumbled. What do you mean in time? We're already late. Huh? Tang Wuling was so shocked, he even forgot his hunger. Let's go. Shen Yi stood up, giving Tang Wuling a meaningful look before walking out. Xu Shaoan and Gu Yue also got up, the former beaming at him while the latter had an apathetic expression. Only, her eyes were far more expressive, concern lingering in their depths. Tang Wuling nodded to them, then turned to Shishi. Who is that? Shishi replied. She's a friend of Teacher Wu's from Shrek. We're already 3 hours late. Teacher Wu's helping us out at the academy right now, so we need to hurry over. Otherwise, we might miss our chance. I'm sorry. This is all my fault. Tang Wuling slumped with shame and hung his head. His stinginess had started a domino effect, from delaying the evolution of his bloodline to holding his teammates back and possibly missing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And all this, just for the sake of saving money. Shishi chuckled. What's the point in talking about it now? When you protected us at the forefront all those times, have we ever said thanks? How's your body? How did your deep meditation go? Unable to tell Shishi about his seals, Tang Wuling could only smile bitterly and say, I don't know either, but I feel great. He had realized that, apart from hunger, he was in good condition. Strength surged through his body, his soul power having grown. He estimated that it was around rank 27 or rank 28 now. Just like the first time, his soul power had not increased by much. Though hunger still clouded his mind, he sensed that his body had strengthened by a third and, when considering his already immense physical power, it was a tremendous improvement. What he truly looked forward to, however, was how his bloodline power had evolved, as well as the surprise Old Tang spoke of. But now was not the time to test it out. In fact, he didn't even have time to eat. Do you have anything to eat? Tang Wuling asked Shishi. Shishi shook his head, but at that moment, Gu Yue held out a bag to Tang Wuling. He accepted the bag, immediately knowing what it was just by the weight and feel of it. It was steamed buns and meat. They weren't spectacular, but they were better than nothing. He didn't thank Gu Yue, although they had grown estranged in the past 3 years. Experiencing life or death situations together was a bond that would never break. Thanks was not needed for such a trivial matter. It was 3 steamed buns and a portion of meat. They didn't smell particularly appetizing, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Tang Wuling devoured the food with such shocking speed that no one in the entire continent would dare say they were number 1 at speed eating in his presence. Not a single crumb was left by the time they reached the first floor. Shen Yi had driven here. Her sleek, dark green soul car was parked in the front. Get in, Shen Yi said as she got into the driver's seat. Shishi sat in the back but was promptly dragged out and forced to the front by Gu Yue. Xu Shaoan, sitting next to the window in the back seat, covered her laugh with a hand. Tang Wuling sat by the opposite window, Gu Yue sandwiched between them. Shishi silently cursed. Gu Yue is too controlling, hugging Wuling all to herself. Gu Yue remained expressionless despite her actions, but Tang Wuling had long since become accustomed to it. He could see how much she cared just by the fact that the food she had given him, though meager, was enough to temporarily alleviate his hunger. Gu Yue nudged him. He turned to see that she was offering him a juice box. Tang Wuling's heart warmed at the gesture. He smiled at her, before quickly drinking the juice. Happiness flashed in Gu Yue's eyes before she closed them to rest. The two sat shoulder to shoulder, a cozy and peaceful atmosphere between them as Gu Yue's cool arm pressed against Tang Wuling's warm one. Shen Yi drove fast but smooth, her reactions precise. She handled her car with skill, lacking any unnecessary movement so that it could display its full speed. The scenery flitted by outside the window. It was Class Zero's first time seeing the rest of Shrek City. The city was just 2 lively and gigantic. When Tang Wuling first left Douluo Bouncy, he had thought East Sea City was too much to behold, an entire world itself. And now, he felt the same about Shrek City, only, this time, he was comparing to East Sea City. This really is the continent's #1 city. With Shen Yu speeding, they arrived at the legendary Shrek Academy within an hour. Ancient city walls extending beyond their vision towered over them like an enormous dragon coiled around the academy, plain and undecorated without even a signboard to mark the location. A large crowd was currently assembled outside the gate. It was a sea of people rowdy with noise and excitement. Instead of entering through the front gate, Shen Yu drove off to the side. After 7 or 8 turns, they found themselves before the wall again and in front of a small gate. Shen Yu pressed a button and the gate opened, revealing a new road, and the soul car turned into the street. The gate closed behind them. Their new surroundings were peaceful and tranquil, as if by passing through that door they had cut their connections to the outside world and entered an era long gone. Are we in Shrek Academy now? Shishi asked Shen Yu. Shen Yu nodded. This is Shrek Academy, or as some call it, Shrek in a City. It was the original Shrek City, but after the city expanded, it became part of the Academy. The entire city was built for the sake of the Academy, so this is the core of the city as well as where students study. Only those recognized by the Academy are permitted to enter Shrek in a City. The car did not slow one bit as she explained, continuing to speed toward the Academy score. Because you were late, your exam will be harder than normal. You'll be tested on the same things, but will have less time to finish and might not even have a chance to rest throughout the entire process. Furthermore, if you do pass, you'll only be working students. Working students? What's that? Tang Wuling asked. Shen Yu said, it means you'll have to pay for the costs to attend Shrek by yourself. Huh? Dread gripped Tang Wuling at the mere mention of spending money. Shishi laughed and said proudly, that's fine. Our captain is great at making money. I'm sure he'll help us out. Tang Wuling was helpless to retort. He was the one who put them in this predicament after all. Shen Yu said, you're not paying the school money, but working for the school to pay for your tuition. Do you think Shrek Academy is short on money? Normal students all attend for free. Work. Tang Wuling's mood uplifted the moment he heard this. He had never been one to back down from hardship. Shishi, on the other hand, made a sour expression as words tumbled out of his mouth. What work? Chapter 254, The Golden Dragon and the Black Dragon. Shen Yu spared him a glance. Ask me again if you pass. It's still early for you to know. The car cruised to a snail's pace, a giant plaza soon coming into view. The ground at the plaza was made of ashen grey stones, which were larger than the black rocks that paved the roads. There were buildings of similar height and ancient architecture arranged on the perimeter of half of the circular plaza. Using just their eyes to estimate, Class 0 and Shen Yu determined that the plaza was at least 1 kilometer long in diameter. The buildings was made of stone, various figures carved into it. Contained within semicircle of buildings was the plaza, and in the plaza's center was a circular man-made pond approximately 100 meters in diameter. At the middle of the fountain stood a majestic sculpture. When Tang Wuling realized the identity of the sculpture was similar to the one in Tang sect, his heart thumped against his chest. Lifelike, the art piece featured the only person who could compare with Tang San, the founder of the Tang sect. It was the Spirit Pagoda's founder, the master of the Sea God's Pavilion within Shrek in that era. The Spirit Douluo, Huo Yuao. He was carved as the center and revered figure, his great spirit soul surrounding him as if they were his guardians. Spirit Douluo Huo Yuao was the sole being of his era to ascend to godhood. That his sculpture could be found here was testimony to his great influence. His sculpture was in the Tang sect, the Spirit Pagoda, and even here, Tang Wuling's eyes sparkled with awe. This is Spirit Ice Plaza. It was built 10,000 years ago when Shrek Academy started to expand into what is now the inner city. Currently, the main school buildings for the outer court are located here. As you may have guessed, it was named after the world-shaking Spirit Douluo, Huo Yuao. I'm sure you've all heard of his legends, so I'll leave it at that. Let's enter the school building now. After her simple explanation, Shen Yu led them toward the ring of buildings. With each step closer to the building, the sculptures carved into the surface of the buildings became easier to make out. These are all sculptures of inner court disciples. Every student admitted into the inner court will have a sculpture shaped in his likeness, in commemoration as well as for evidence of Shrek's history. Shen Yu explained when she noticed the wonder flashing in their eyes. Without letting them admire the art further, Shen Yu shepherded them into the building. The first thing that jumped out at them was the size. The ceiling towered over them at least 10 meters in height. Despite the fact that the building had 6 floors, there were fine illustrations drawn into the walls and domed ceiling, which caused onlookers to stop and stare, overwhelmed by the grandeur. Even so, such a sight was not tacky at the slightest, and was able to maintain an air of elegance. Shen Yu talked while walking. This building is called House Shrek. The murals on the walls and ceiling detail are 20,000 years of history. So prestigious. 20,000 years of history, a foundation spanning across eras, was truly awe-inspiring. All 4 students of Class 0 felt the urge to kowtow before this history of magnificence. Only now did they understand why Shrek Academy was known as the Sacred Temple of Soul Masters. Traveling to Shrek Academy was like making a pilgrimage. If they were privileged enough to study here, they would have an unforgettable experience for the rest of their lives. As his shame grew heavier, Tang Wuling's blood boiled, his hands balling into fists and knuckles glowing white. I almost made my teammates miss the Shrek exam. We all have to get in here. Although it was his first time so close to Shrek Academy, a mere taste of its glory, he knew in his heart that he must enter it. There wasn't a single soul master who could resist the temptation of Shrek Academy. After passing through the dome-roofed area, they climbed a flight of stairs with arching windows on each side, which provided a view of the yard outside. There were plants kept in tip-top shape throughout the green field, and on the other side of that was a stone structure similar to the one Class 0 was in. Everything in sight was part of the Shrek house, illustrating how large the building was. The semicircle of buildings they had first been introduced to was just the tip of the iceberg. Even the imperial palaces of eras long gone might not be able to compare with this building. No wonder Shen Yu said Shrek doesn't lack any money. Just how much money did it cost to construct something so big? Tang Wuling sucked in a deep breath. Immersing himself in the environment felt wonderful. After passing through 2 more corridors, they arrived in a round hall. Its domed ceiling stretched 20 meters high. Additionally, there was a mural painted on the ceiling just as the previous hall had been. As Class 0 took in the detailed painting, their bodies trembled, their knees buckling beneath them. Despite the 20-meter distance separating them and the mural, it felt as if a mountain weighed down upon their shoulders. There was a large black dragon in the mural. Its eyes glowed golden, even more striking against the backdrop of its ebony face, and its wings were spread wide. Violet light exploded from its body. It was obviously a painting, but it was vivid to the point of blurring the lines between fiction and reality. Each dragon scale could be counted with no difficulty, without missing a single one. The mural imposed an unstoppable pressure on the onlookers, as if the room itself was caving in under the dragon's might. Compared to his teammates, Tang Wuling's reaction was more subdued. When the unseen pressure attempted to dominate him, his blood roared into action, arrogantly refuting the black dragon's might and fueling him with courage. He managed to stand tall before it, unaffected. Gu Yue's valor nearly matched his. After a moment of trembling and surprise, she regained herself. Shu Shaoen and Shishi, on the other hand, were deeply affected. Shu Shaoen trembled and verged on collapsing, her face pale with shock. Shishi was in a worse state. His knees had given in immediately, but he was caught by Tang Wuling before he hit the ground. A bizarre sensation enveloped him the moment he came in contact with his captain's aura, dispelling his fear enough that he could stand firm again. At some unknown time, Shen Yu had disappeared, leaving the 4 students by themselves. Wave after wave of pressure came crashing onto them, each more terrifying than the last. Tang Wuling brows furrowed. He could sense Shishi shaking with each wave of pressure, nearing the point of collapse. Snapping out of his stupor, Tang Wuling had noticed that Shen Yu was no longer present. As such, he came to the conclusion that this place held more secrets than it did at first glance. This was likely part of their test. Tang Wuling snorted, golden light flaring in the depths of his eyes as his bloodline power spurred into motion. Golden scales rippled into existence across his right arm, pulsing with more power than ever before. He could feel his blood overflowing with strength. After the scales had spread up his arm, they continued past his shoulder to his collarbone, and then down his torso's right side. The right portion of his neck was not left excluded. His blood essence stretched beyond his body and enveloped his comrades in a bid to protect him. Chapter 255, The Potential of a Little Monster. Tang Wuling himself found this phenomenon strange, but dismissed it. With a cold snort, he dispelled some of the black dragon's crushing pressure. Now that Shishi was surrounded by Tang Wuling's blood essence, he was finally able to regain his composure. Though Shishi did not perceive Tang Wuling's blood essence, he felt an unshakable sense of security standing next to him. As long as he was next to Tang Wuling, everything would be okay. Shen Yu appeared from around the corner of a stone pillar, an elderly man following behind her. The old man wore a dark green robe, his face the very definition of surprise. He nodded in approval when he saw Tang Wuling. Not bad. He has the potential of a little monster. It has been many years since I've last seen someone capable of withstanding the gold-eyed Black Dragon King's pressure. Unknown to Class 0, the mural above them was painted by a titled Douluo who specialized in painting. However, the only reason it could invoke such terror in their hearts was because it was painted with one drop of blood from the strongest soul beast in the Great Star Dou Forest, the fearsome gold-eyed Black Dragon King. The drop of blood obtained from the legendary battle between the dragon and Shrek Academy's most powerful members. This mural tested the spiritual power of examinees. The longer they lasted, the higher their score. Shen Yi was also astonished. She had originally labeled Gu Yue as the most promising student of Class 0, but now, Tang Wuling had emerged as another promising student. In the long history of this Black Dragon Hall, no one had ever used their own aura to resist the might of the mural. Examinees had always been forced to resist it with their own strength. Elder Li, this trial score. Elder Li glanced at Tang Wuling. Give that boy full marks. As for the other 3, I suppose luck is an aspect of one's strength. Give the rest 8 points. Thank you, Elder Li. Shen Yi's eyes lit up with joy. Without needing to be told, the 4 students turned to the elder and bowed. The elder smiled humbly. I'm just giving face to that old fellow, Chawoshi. It doesn't change the fact that you were all late. He made to leave, but turned back once more to give Tang Wuling an approving nod before walking off. His actions were incomprehensible. The exam is split into many trials. Each trial has a maximum score of 10 points, but the pass you need a minimum of 6 and your points are totaled at the end of the exams. Points will be deducted for failed sections and added for full score sections. So actually, your luck was pretty good for the first section. Shen Yi nodded in satisfaction. Follow me. We're done the first trial already. Shishi gave Tang Wuling a thumbs up. They had only realized then that the trial tested their spiritual power. The greater their spiritual power, the longer they could endure the pressure. Although Shishi's spiritual power surpassed the norm, he still fell flat compared to Shrek's standard. If not for Tang Wuling, he would have failed this trial. Gu Yue's score could have been higher, but it would have been impossible for Xu Xiaoan and her to get 8 points. The realization that they had just passed their first trial hit them hard, and they subconsciously moved to assume their battle formation as they walked. Tang Wuling stood at the front as the spearhead, Shishi slightly behind him, while Xu Xiaoan and Gu Yue were in the backlines. After passing through a corridor, they arrived in another hall. Shen Yi stopped and spun around to face the 4 students. Wait here. The second trial will begin in a moment. She left without explaining the content of the next trial. It was already generous of Shrek Academy to let them to take the exam despite being late. Unlike the other examinees, they did not need to line up and as such could only power through the trials without resting. With a glance, Tang Wuling signaled to Shishi and Xu Xiaoan, who then immediately sat down cross-legged and began meditating. They were a bit spent after resisting the spiritual pressure of the previous trial. Gu Yue, however, shook her head, indicating she was fine. At that moment, the hall darkened as if night had descended, but it was just noon. It's too soon for it to be nighttime. Mysterious silver lights lit up on the ground. They wove together, presenting a dazzling scene while the night sky painted on the domed roof transformed into a boundless expanse of space that seemed almost impossibly real. Gu Yue's brows jumped in surprise while Tang Wuling roused the barely rested Shishi and Xu Xiaoan. The silver pattern on the floor gradually faded away. At that moment, it was as if they were floating in the starry sky of a magical world. Hold hands. Tang Wuling ordered as he grabbed Shishi with one hand and Gu Yue with the other. Gu Yue held Xu Xiaoan's hand and she, in turn, took Shishi's, completing the circle. 2 purple rings rose beneath Tang Wuling as blue silver grass burst from his body to wrap them all in a protective barrier. Without knowing what the enemy was, this was the only action he could take. Once their safety was secured, they would have leeway to formulate a response plan. Suddenly, their surroundings changed. Light appeared in the still night. Now, however, they found themselves in a large space. Where are we? Just as they thought this, a deafening roar broke the air and the tyrannical pressure slammed into them. A soul beast appeared before them, a monstrous thing over 10 meters long and 5 meters tall. 2 horns jutted out of its skull, one slightly longer than the other. Its skin looked as tough as armor, encasing its scarlet eyes. It's an earth demon rhinoceros. It should be at least 3,000 years, Shishi said solemnly. They had never encountered such a beast in the spirit ascension platform since it wasn't an inhabitant of the forest, but a lord of the savannah. Although it was not as mighty as the dusk gold dreadclaw bear of the forest, its strength was not to be underestimated. Its attribute is earth, Gu Yue judged. Tang Wuling remained silent, only making a few hand signals. Gu Yue and Xu Xiaoan turned around and ran to open up distance while Shishi rushed to the side. Sparkling strands of blue silver grass bound their waists, connecting the 4 teammates. In a flash of golden light, a small snake appeared on Tang Wuling's shoulder. Gold light had grown much since 3 years ago. It was about half a meter in length and as thick as a chestnut now. Meanwhile, its golden scales had transformed and appeared similar to those on Tang Wuling's right arm, thicker and sharper than before. Gold light slithered down his left arm and coiled around his forearm, its eyes sparkling gold. The earth demon rhinoceros let out another thundering roar and pawed the ground twice before charging at Tang Wuling. Rather than fear, Tang Wuling felt his blood rouse and shouted in unstoppable excitement. This was the perfect opportunity to test his growth after breaking the second seal, which was why, instead of retreating, he charged forward to clash head on with the beast. Shishi had positioned himself to the side at that moment, while a yellow light blossomed on the ground in front of the rhinoceros. The earth softened as Gu Yue gestured with hands enveloped in yellow light. Not only could the earth element be used to harden the ground, it could also create a marsh. The crimson eyes of the earth demon rhinoceros were full of bloodthirst. Just before it fell prey to the marsh, a yellow light appeared beneath its feet, and the earth hardened again. Without slowing down, it continued to charge at Tang Wuling. Chapter 256, Golden Soul Ring. Tang Wuling shot forward like a rocket, activating blue silver impaling array as he propelled himself into the air. The earth demon rhinoceros charged straight into his array, its large and thick body barely restrained for a moment. Tang Wuling took advantage of the opening to edge closer and, drawing all his strength into his fist, punched it right in the face. The rhinoceros roared, lowering its horns to counter the fist. In terms of strength, the earth demon rhinoceros would rank in the top 3 among soul beasts of the same level. The dusk gold dreadclaw bear, however, would only rank in the top 10. Bang! It was like being hit by a train. Tang Wuling flew back like a cannonball, his entire arm numb from the impact. Still, he flung a strand of blue silver grass to bind the rhinoceros's neck like a lasso. The earth demon rhinoceros also recoiled from the clash. Although it hadn't been hurt, Tang Wuling was proud of his achievement. After all, the earth demon rhinoceros was feared for its sheer brutal strength. Tang Wuling took the opportunity to survey his surroundings while midair. This place reminded him of the beast arenas of old, a place where people with courage and riches gathered, a place where soul masters fought each other or soul beasts, a place that seduced others with the promised great rewards. And this place felt the same. The earth demon rhinoceros's strength was formidable, its defense surpassing even that of the dusk gold dreadclaw bear. All it lacked was attack power. He pulled hard on a strand of blue silver grass and, like a compressed spring, he went flying through the air as the tension released in a burst of muscle and adrenaline. Shishi, positioned at the rhinoceros's side, chose this moment to act. His second soul ring lit up as he activated Light Dragon Storm. With his rich combat experience, Shishi pinpointed the rhinoceros's head as its weakest point. The best target. Agility-type soul masters had the most explosive attacks among their peers. Shishi was no exception. The earth demon rhinoceros twitched in its effort to pursue Tang Wuling, giving Shishi the perfect opportunity to strike. He took it, though such an attack could not breach the rhinoceros's thick skin and even thicker defenses. It still stung. This was enough to accomplish Shishi's objective. Grunting in pain, the rhinoceros raised its right foot and stomped. Tang Wuling, still in mid-flight, grabbed the strand connecting to Shishi and pulled him into the air. Boom! Yellow light exploded outward as the rhinoceros's foot descended, only dissipating after traveling for 25 meters in radius. A little more and it would have reached Gu Yue and Xu Xiaoan. It was War Stomp, an attack soul skill that possessed formidable paralysis effects. Tang Wuling had been quick enough to evade it, but Shishi was one step too late as he lost control of his body to a numb sensation. He urged his soul power into motion, circulating it throughout his body. Meanwhile, Tang Wuling landed on the rhinoceros's head. Golden scales ripped across his skin as his arm transformed into his supreme golden dragon claw. Among all the elements, Earth had the strongest defense and stability. Rarely could the other subdue it. As such, the biggest obstacle in defeating an earth demon rhinoceros was breaking its stalwart defense. Even so, this posed no problem for Tang Wuling. As long as he could penetrate its hide, then his golden dragon claw's crushing effect would take care of the rest. The rhinoceros's defeat was only a matter of time. However, something unexpected happened. The The instant his golden dragon claw materialized, his body blazed with heat as fire seared his blood. His 2 purple soul rings vanished, and in their place, a golden soul ring appeared. A golden soul ring? Both Xu Shaoan and Gu Yue were dumbstruck by this unprecedented scene, completely forgetting to prepare their soul skills. Even Shi, who was planning for a second assault from the air, gaped at the sight. The golden soul ring shone with resplendent light, showering Tang Wuling in a splendid gold. No longer were the scales on his arm and the claw a dull color. Now, they dazzled brighter than a diamond. A powerful aura of blood essence gathered around him while his body swelled with power. Bang! The Earth Demon Rhinoceros threw its head back, hurling Tang Wuling off. Too preoccupied with the changes in his body, Tang Wuling missed his opportunity to attack. He only managed to raise his scaled arm to block the rhinoceros's horn. This time, he neither trembled nor did his arm go weak from the impact. Confused, he took in the golden glow of his body. Gu Yue called out, "Be careful." Yellow light surged in his direction, earth spikes following in its wake. Having just landed on the ground, he braced himself for the onslaught. Yet, a strange scene played out. Just as the earth spike stabbed him, the golden light merged with his skin and he was sent flying into the air, unharmed. Tang Wuling groaned as the impact ran through, but he quickly came to a realization. That golden light strengthened my body. Is this the surprise old Tang spoke of? With no time left to ponder, he spun in mid-air and grabbed the strand of blue silver brass wrapped around the rhinoceros's head, diving down like a hawk. His reinforcements finally arrived. Still in flight, Shi split into 3 clones that headed for the rhinoceros. Another set of 3 shadows followed behind them, hidden from sight. The strongest suit of his shadow dragon dagger was its ability to stay hidden within the shadows. In this hairbreadth of a second, Shi displayed the full might of both of his third soul skills, combining them into twin dragon clones. Both light dragon clones and shadow dragon clones could create 3 clones each, a total of 6 clones. Each one zipped toward the soul beast, assaulting it from a different angle. 2 of them attacked head-on, aiming straight for the eyes. No matter how strong the skin, the eyes would be weak points. As if understanding this, the Earth Demon Rhinoceros used its thick eyelids to shield against Shishi's barrage. Because the twin dragon clones required maximum control and soul power, Shishi was unable to utilize other soul skills simultaneously, but he didn't need to. The disruptive effect of 6 clones attacking at the same instance was enough. Without pausing, Xu Shaoan activated starlight shackles beneath the rhinoceros, binding it in place. The chains prevented the rhinoceros from charging at the 2 girls. Despite being effective for just an instant, the shackles had upset the soul beast's center of gravity and sent it toppling. Stars littered the sky. Though it was just an illusion, such a sight was enough to set off her soul abilities. Xu Shaoan's Star Wheel Eye Staff accepted the night as fact, granting her the absolute control of her starlight shackles. Chapter 257, Bloodline Soul Skill, Golden Dragon Body. If Xu Shaoan's soul skill could restrain even an expert of Wu Zhangkong's level, it was pointless to even mention the Earth Demon Rhinoceros. Despite her attack being ready, Gu Yue did not launch it. Instead, she recalled her soul power and soul rings. After Xu Shaoan recovered from her initial surprise, she created an opening with her starlight shackles. Tang Wuling did not let this chance slip away and swiftly remounted the rhinoceros's head. His resplendent golden dragon claw descended upon the rhinoceros's nape. The rhinoceros's defenses were strong, and Tang Wuling didn't know if his claw could penetrate its skull. Since its neck was significantly weaker in comparison, it was the next best target. The moment his claw touched the beast's skin, the golden light clinging to his body converged on it, bathing it in a magnificent glow. The crushing effect of his claw immediately activated and shattered the rhinoceros's outer armor of skin. He thrust his claw into the breach. A moment later, the Earth Demon Rhinoceros collapsed with a loud rumble. Tang Wuling had severed its spine, seizing both its control over its body and its life. It's really strong. As Tang Wuling stared at his sparkling claw that lacked even the tiniest of bloodstains, he felt a flurry of emotions. He had reaped many benefits from breaking the second seal. First was this mysterious golden soul ring that seemed to appear when he unleashed his golden dragon claw. If Tang Wuling's blue silver brass consumed his soul power, then this golden soul ring consumed his physical strength and blood essence. His golden dragon claw no longer used up his soul power, but he could feel his blood essence drain away to sustain it. If he used up all of his blood essence, however, he would get hungry. As a result of that change, Tang Wuling could now sustain his golden dragon claw for longer periods of time. It also became stronger, while the golden scales amplified Tang Wuling's strength even further. In addition to that, the scales now covered the entire right side of his body, greatly strengthening the parts they covered. All of this was a substantial improvement. He wouldn't have been able to slaughter this Earth Demon Rhinoceros so easily without it. In the back of Tang Wuling's mind, he vaguely knew that the name of the golden soul ring's soul skill was Golden Dragon Body. Golden Dragon Body increased Tang Wuling's strength, speed, attack power, and defense as an all-around ability amplifier. However, it increased his strength the most. This was made clear by how he was able to go toe-to-toe against the Earth Demon Rhinoceros without backing down. Of course, Xu Shaoan's starlight shackles played a huge role in his swift kill. Without its absolute restraining power, he wouldn't have had a chance to kill the rhinoceros in one attack while facing the many soul skills it possessed. Just as he started reviewing the battle, the beast arena faded away, returning everything to darkness. The stars in the sky warped, giving everyone a short bout of dizziness before their vision became clear again. The four stood face to face with one another, hands joined together, just like before. It seemed as though everything they just experienced had been an illusion. They had experienced fighting in an illusory world during their time in the Spirit Ascension platform, but that had only been possible through the usage of sophisticated technology. Yet this place was not like the Spirit Ascension platform. It felt different here. Truly strange. They couldn't fathom the magic behind it, but they were awestruck nonetheless. Shen Yi reappeared before them, her expression stranger than ever. The Beast Arena was the second trial of Shrek Academy's entrance exam. The strength and number of soul beasts in the trial varied depending on the number of participants. Surviving for 1 minute was the minimum requirement for passing the trial, while harming the beasts awarded bonus points. Shen Yi had purposefully neglected to tell them the minimum requirement to pass this trial, but she had never imagined that they would be so fierce. They had faced an Earth Demon Rhinoceros after all. Even for her, it would have been annoying to kill one with over 3,000 years of cultivation without her battle armor. The rhinoceros's defenses were simply too strong. Yet these kids had slaughtered it. She wondered whether Tang Wuling's claw would still be able to penetrate the rhinoceros's defenses if it had been a bit stronger. Furthermore, there was the mystery of his golden soul ring. No matter how she looked at it, the boy had to have twin martial souls. But surely Wu Zhangkong would have mentioned such a thing to her. The results for second trial: the Beast Arena, Tang Wuling, 10 points. Shi, 10 points. Gu Yue, 8 points. Xu Shaoan, 10 points. Wow, how did we score so high? Shi asked in surprise. He hadn't expected to score a full 10 points. Shen Yi nodded. You scored highly because you killed the Earth Demon Rhinoceros together. The criteria for passing didn't involve killing it, so even Gu Yue, who didn't attack it, got a high score. We shall now continue. Follow me. As she led the way, Shen Yi's heart welled with expectation. These kids really match Shrek's motto. They're like little monsters. Their combat ability is high, and in addition to good teamwork, they are capable of remaining calm during battle. Shen Yi was perceptive. She had seen that not a single one of the four had panicked during their battle against the Earth Demon Rhinoceros. Gu Yue was the calmest of them all, but the rest had excitement in their eyes. Shi had even spoken the Earth Demon Rhinoceros's name out loud, meaning all of them knew how formidable the beast was. Even with that knowledge, they did not cower back. Confident in their strength, they rose to the challenge. It was clear they had faced tougher foes before. Senior brother, it seems you've made sure to give them a lot of combat experience. In contrast to Shen Yi's feelings of admiration, Tang Wuling furrowed his brow, overcome by confusion. He shot Gu Yue an inquisitive look, and she nodded in response. Although they had scored well in the last two trials, Tang Wuling couldn't relax. Their exam would continue, all of it administered in one go without giving them time to rest. With their current cultivation base, their soul power would be severely limited without any chances to meditate. They didn't know how many more trials there were, but at this rate, their soul power would definitely be exhausted. Fortunately, Tang Wuling now wielded a powerful bloodline soul ring in addition to his martial soul. However, Xu Shaoan had used 1/3 of her soul power to restrain the Earth Demon Rhinoceros for a split second with her starlight shackles. If he had been any slower in finishing it off, even more of her soul power would have been consumed. He had looked at Gu Yue to check on her condition, and her nod told him that she was all right. After the last two trials, all four of them understood just what sort of entrance exam Shrek Academy had. Many more unknown trials awaited them. This was just the beginning. Shen Yi pulled a sliding door open and brought them to a space between the stone buildings. This was the site of the third trial. A series of gates sat in rows, one after another, with at least 100 covering the area in total. The number of gates in each row varied. These gates were called guillotine gates. Each gate had a gigantic, 2-meter wide, 1-meter tall, half-a-meter thick guillotine blade. With such an enormous blade, even a full-grown cow would instantly be split in half. The third trial tests your ability to adapt. Once I tell you to get ready, you will have 1 minute to prepare. Once I shout for you to begin, you will have to pass through all of the gates. If you finish within 30 seconds, you get 6 points. For every 3 seconds you finish early, you get an additional point. For every 3 seconds you're late, you will lose 1 point. There are 2 things you need to know about this trial. First, the closer you are to each gate, the faster its guillotine will fall. Since these are real guillotines, you will die if they strike you. Second, you can get a negative score for this trial. If you can't even pass this trial, then forget about taking the later trials. Raise the guillotines. When she finished speaking, she gestured to the side, and the clank of metal resounded as the guillotine blades began to rise. The frontmost gate's guillotine fell with a booming clang, sparks erupting from it as it thudded into the recess below. The sound struck terror into the students' hearts. Then, the blade rose back up and descended again. Chapter 258, dominating the third trial. Following the first guillotine blade, the rest began falling one after another, a metal clamor filling the air. Get ready. The 1-minute countdown begins now. Without giving Tang Wulian and the others even a moment to digest the situation, Shen Yu began counting down. The gears of Tang Wulian's mind began turning. We need to cross through the guillotine gates within 30 seconds. The shortest path has 6 gates. Dou Yue, test the power of the guillotine blades. Having a cool head was essential to passing such trials. While she was eager to speed through the gates, Xu Shaoan stared at them pale-faced. Dou Yue was just as calm as usual, and following Tang Wulian's order, she held out her hand and turned her palm to the sky. Blue light condensed in her hand, forming a 2-meter long icicle that she shot through the bottom of the guillotine. Clang! The guillotine blade fell, instantly turning most of the icicle into a fine powder while splitting the thickest part of it into 2. The descent of one blade produces about 3,000 kilograms of force, Dou Yue announced. Her precise analysis was only possible because of her spiritual connection with the elements. Can you do it? Tang Wulian asked. I can protect one person, Dou Yue responded. How about you, Shishi? Leaping from the ground, Shishi said. I'm fine. Just as Tang Wulian was about to state their plan, Dou Yue said. How about I protect Xu Shaoan and you carry me on your back? It shouldn't be a problem with your physical strength. Shishi can then follow right behind us. That should work. Tang Wulian considered it for a moment. The plan he thought up would have Dou Yue and Shishi passed through the gates by themselves while he carried Xu Shaoan. It was the most logical plan. Dou Yue's arrangement would also work, but he felt that there was something strange about it, so he eyed her suspiciously. A slight blush appeared on Dou Yue's face, but she quickly returned to normal. 10, 9, 8. Shen Yi had begun the final countdown. They only had a few seconds left before the trial started. Tang Wulian sucked in a deep breath. There was no time left to change the plan. Dou Yue approached his back and quickly mounted him. With a wave of her hand, green lights enveloped Tang Wulian, Shishi, and Xu Shaoan. Paralyzed by fear, she just stared at the guillotines. Shaoan, don't be afraid, Dou Yue said. You go first. I'll use the earth element to hold the guillotine blades up, and we'll follow right behind you. All you have to do is run through quickly. Xu Shaoan clenched her jaw and nodded. 3, 2, 1. Begin. With Shen Yi's declaration, the third trial began. Dou Yue chanted quietly, her hands raised toward the sky. She only managed to stay pressed close to Tang Wulian's back by using her legs. They straddled his waist tightly, his hands gripping the flesh of her thighs. A yellow light flashed as a stone pillar shut up underneath the first gate. Clang! The blade hurtled into the stone pillar, crashing against it. The pillar shook as cracks webbed throughout its stone. Quickly! Dou Yue shouted. In that instant, Xu Shaoan's eyes became resolute. After all these years together, she had come to completely trust in her teammates. She leaned forward and dashed through the first gate, joining Shishi who had flashed through it earlier. With Dou Yue clinging to his back, Tang Wulian went through last. However, right when he passed directly underneath the guillotine, the stone pillar suddenly collapsed. The gigantic guillotine blade plunged downward. Dou Yue shut her eyes tightly, arms wrapped tightly around Tang Wulian's neck as if she had no intention of leaving him. Her heart was racing, probably because of the tense situation. Tang Wulian, however, only felt her drawing closer to him, her arms and legs wrapped around his neck and waist. Faced with the incoming blade, Tang Wulian showed neither fear nor joy. Isn't this just 3,000 kilograms of force? And it has even been weakened by the stone pillar. Tang Wulian raised his right hand, his blood roaring as his golden dragon claw appeared. He thrust his arm above him, struck the enormous blade, and held it aloft. From her position on the sidelines, Shen Yi was dumbstruck. She had witnessed countless students face this trial in the past. Each and every one of them approached it differently, yet this was the first time she had seen someone brazenly grab the blade. That blade weighs over 1,000 kilograms. With gravity added to that should have been over 3,000 kilograms of force. He can't. Shen Yi nearly shut her eyes subconsciously. She was afraid of the bloody scene she anticipated. But, of course that didn't happen. Clang. Tang Wulian easily caught the blade, only squatting a bit to compensate for the force. Up, he shouted, his right arm filling with strength as fiercely pushed it up. Holding it high in the air, he stepped through the first gate with Dou Yue on his back. Boss, are you even human? Shishi stared at Tang Wulian in horror. On the other hand, shock showed in Xu Shaoan's eyes, forcing her fear into the backseat. Dou Yue, you don't need to do anything else. I can do this by myself. Now that he had experienced the strength of the guillotine himself, Tang Wulian was confident. He walked toward the second gate with large strides. As the blade dropped, he held up his hand once more and grabbed it. He pushed the blade back up, letting Xu Shaoan and Shishi pass through before him and Dou Yue. Tang Wulian and his golden dragon claw treated the dreaded guillotine blades like toys. He held up each and every one of them easily. The 4 of them soon passed through 6 gates, the shortest distance possible. Shen Yi was speechless. This kid is looking more and more like a monster. This trial was supposed to test their ability to adapt, their reaction times, and their courage. Against such terrifying guillotines, with only a minute to plan, the ability to adapt quickly was essential to passing the trial. Furthermore, such adaptability could only be founded in courage. Many students who had what it took to pass the trial relied on things such as speed and strength. However, the enormous guillotines struck fear into these examinees who were under 15 years old, leaving many of them too scared to move even an inch. For the students of Class 0, this trial had been exceptionally easy, but for most examinees, it was the hardest trial of them all. With their time limited and their courage tested, many could not make it through the trial within the time limit. Even if examinees were the elite of the elites that major cities recommended, the first trial eliminated a majority of them because their spiritual power was usually just too weak. In comparison, most examinees passed the second trial since it was a simple battle. As for the third trial, over half of the remaining examinees were usually weeded out due to their lack of courage in the face of death. Examinees would normally go through the gates one at a time since they usually couldn't formulate a plan of cooperation in the 1 minute given. Furthermore, there was the question of whether their courage, adaptability, and judgment were up to par. It was only because Tang Wulian possessed all of these qualities in excess that the third trial was so easy for his team. In such a trial, Tang Wulian single-handedly dealt with everything. The trial's difficulty had never crossed his mind. The entire time, he just focused on passing. His courage wasn't even tested here. Even if it were, he had never lacked it. If he had, then he wouldn't have been able to decisively shield Dou Yue from a soul fusion skill with his own body. As for the rest of his team, they rode his coattails to the finish line. It was as if he were propping up the heavens. Shen Yi called out their final time. 14 seconds. Tang Wulian swung his arm a bit, flexing his shoulder as he withdrew his claw and his hand returned to normal. Chapter 259. Testing specialties. Tang Wulian was quite pleased with the results of this trial. Apart from himself, who had called upon his blood essence and soul power, his team conserved almost all of their energy. Now that the third trial was over, Tang Wulian understood how crucial it was to ration soul power for the upcoming trials. If they didn't, they wouldn't be able to last until the end. He had stopped Dou Yue from exercising control over the elements precisely to conserve her soul power. As the strongest of the 4, she was better suited for handling the later trials. Tang Wulian took the brunt of the earlier ones. You all scored 10 points. Shen Yi strained herself to maintain a mask of tranquility, promptly leading the way to the next test after announcing the results. She had harbored some worry for these kids in her heart, since taking these trials consecutively without rest would be tough. But now it was apparent she had been anxious for nothing. They had scored well on the first 3, and even got full marks on the third and hardest test. Although they didn't break any records for speed, they were the only ones in history to have dominated the trial. That Tang Wulian really deserves to be Class 0's captain. No wonder the talented Dou Yue submits to him so willingly. You can get down now, Tang Wulian said, patting Dou Yue's arms that were wrapped around his neck. Dou Yue buried her head into his back, clinging onto him, pretending as if she hadn't heard his words. Confused, Tang Wuling asked anxiously, did you get injured back then? Gu Yue shook her head softly and under her breath said, Jay, just carry me for a bit longer. I'm a bit scared. Both Xi and Xu Shaoan pulled strange faces as they watched the two from the sidelines. What is there for Gu Yue to be afraid of? Does she even understand the meaning of fear? In the two bystanders' eyes, Gu Yue was unaffected by such things, a paragon of indifference. Besides maintaining good relationships with her teammates, she would ignore everyone else. She looked at all strangers with cold, apathetic eyes. In the past 3 years, she hadn't interacted much with Tang Wuling, Xi, or Xu Shaoan. Whenever she had a day off, she would bury herself at the Spirit Pagoda. Yet, for some reason, after the start of the Shrek Academy entrance exams, she seemed to warm up a bit. More precisely, she became warmer toward Tang Wuling. The change was quite obvious, and now it was even clearer. Just what is going on here? What they didn't know was that currently, in Gu Yue's mind, there was the image of a naked Tang Wuling soaking in the bathtub, golden mist lingering around his toned body. His muscles shimmered in the moist, wet steam. Although she had gotten just a glimpse of his sculpted assets, it was engraved in her memories, anything and everything. It was at that precise moment that her attitude toward Tang Wuling began changing. Gu Yue's legs were wrapped around Tang Wuling too tightly for him to peel her off. He resigned himself to carrying her. While Gu Yue's heart pounded, Tang Wuling's face grew crimson by the second. Though they were still young, the differences between boys and girls were already becoming apparent, making their marks. Tang Wuling's figure was not bulky, but sturdy and lean. On the other hand, Gu Yue's body was soft, and softness brought toughness, a sweet scent hanging over her form. As he carried her, locks of her hair fell onto his face, tickling him. Once they re-entered the building, they proceeded through another corridor, climbed up the stairs, and finally reached the building's second floor. The walls and ceilings were pure white with gold lines etched into them, as if to portray something. Those are soul device blueprints. Xu Shaoan asked. She had chosen mega designer for her secondary profession, and as such she could instantly recognize what these golden lines represented. Why are they decorating the walls with soul device blueprints? Tang Wuling couldn't make sense of the complex diagrams. If his spiritual power was weaker, then perhaps he may have gone dizzy just staring at the diagrams. They entered a large room as he was in mid-thought. Shen Yi pointed to some chairs on the side. Wait here. I'm going to go get this trials administrators. This trial will test your personal strength. Only one of your specialties will be examined, so consider carefully what you will present. Your greatest specialty is directly related to your strength. Finished speaking, she about-faced and left. Our specialty? She was at a loss. Gu Yue finally got down from Tang Wuling's back and sat cross-legged first, meditating and not uttering a word. Tang Wuling took a seat beside her. This trial is pretty simple. Our specialty is just our greatest strength as a soul master. For example, Xi, you're an agility type soul master, so you just need to show the limit of your speed. You just need to embody what it means to be an agility type soul master. Of course, you're not a normal one since you have twin martial souls, so I think you should show off both, a combination of speed and your twin martial souls. It should be the same for everyone else, so just show them what you're best at. Xu Shaoan furrowed her brows. Captain, then what should I do? My full potential only comes up at night. Tang Wuling flashed a wry smile. You'll just have to make do by describing it with words. You already used it during the second trial, so it shouldn't be hard to find proof. It should be fine as long as you explain your ability thoroughly. As long as you're speaking the truth, I don't think they'll demand you to show it. Xu Shaoan's expression eased. I got it. Tang Wuling said, all right, rest as much as you can everyone. This is a rare opportunity. He closed his eyes in an instant and began meditating the moment he finished speaking. The strength of his blood essence was closely related to his soul power. The greater his soul power, the mightier his blood essence. With no food in sight, his only option was to recover his soul power. However, they weren't given much time to rest. Not even 5 minutes later, Shen Yi returned with 3 people in tow. 2 were middle-aged while the third was an elderly lady. The elderly lady held a walking stick in her hand, her gait unsteady as she walked over to a long table and took a seat. The 2 middle-aged men treated her with respect, sitting down on each side of her after she was seated. This left Shen Yi to stand on the side. The old lady scrutinized the still meditating 4 examinees across from her, who were unaware of the 3's arrival. A smile tugging at the corner of her mouth, she said in a hoarse voice, these kids sure know how to make the most of their time. All right then, little Yi, tell them we're beginning. Yes, Elder Kai. Shen Yi showed no discontent at how the old lady addressed her, and instead, answered deferentially. She took quick steps toward the 4 examinees to wake them up. This trial's administrators are here now. Shen Yi asked, which of you will go first? Tang Wuling studied his teammates as he considered. Since they were a team of 4, he had to determine the best method for the whole group, especially since the first to go up would likely leave the deepest impression. The order they went in was crucial. The first to proceed needed to go with a bang. Xi, you're up first. After announcing his decision, he shifted over to Xishi's side and whispered a few words into his ear. Okay. Xi nodded then stood up, walking to the center of the room. Hello teachers, he said as he bowed deeply to the 3 examiners. The old lady chuckled. Kid, go on and begin. You only have one stance, so show me what you're best at. Yes, Xi answered respectfully while 3 soul rings appeared beneath him. 2 yellow and 1 purple. The 3 soul rings twinkled in the air. A moment later, his 3rd soul ring, the soul purple one, lit up. His body blurred into 3 identical clones standing side by side. They couldn't be differentiated by the naked eye. The 3 Shishis spoke to the teachers. Then, in an instant, their figures became transparent as they dashed off in separate directions with bizarre steps. Each one held a light dragon dagger. The air hissed as each of the daggers sliced through the air. The slashes grew faster, blurred, until each of the 3 figures seemed like a thrashing whirlwind. The clones flitted around the area, the wind raging as they fought an imaginary opponent at the eye of the hurricane. The 2 middle-aged teachers were astonished. Using their soul power to envelop the arena, they could tell that these invisible clones were tangible existences. Chapter 260, the 4th trial. Soul skills that produce clones weren't anything special, and were actually a common sight among agility type soul masters. 3 clones were fairly impressive, but still couldn't be considered much to Shrek Academy. 6 clones, however, were a different story, especially since half of them were invisible. 30 seconds later, the 3 clones merged back into one figure. Sweat dripped from Shishi's forehead as he bowed to the 3 teachers 3 times. I'm finished with my performance. The old lady looked at him with interest. Kid, your twin martial souls are similar to one another, correct? Yes, that's right. Shishi wasn't surprised at the elder's insight into his secret. This was Shrek Academy after all. The old lady nodded. Not bad, but you still lack control. You've only scratched the surface of the Tang Sex Ghost Shadow Perplexing track. Don't try to rush progress and don't bite off more than you can chew. Refine your Ghost Shadow Perplexing track more before giving all of your clones the same abilities. Furthermore, your spiritual power is too weak at the moment. It's impossible for you to have complete control over 3 clones at once. Focus on strengthening your spiritual power first. If you can reach the Spirit Sea realm within 3 years, your future will be boundless. Shishi had been quite proud of himself. With his twin dragon clones, each one utilizing Ghost Shadow Perplexing track against one target, he considered himself quite formidable. However, he couldn't say a single word to refute the old lady's criticism. She had hit each nail right on the head, pinpointing each and every one of his weaknesses. Shishi happily bowed once more, his head nearly dipping below his knees. Admiration welled from the bottom of his heart. Thank you for your guidance. I will do my best to improve myself. Amen. The old lady nodded. Next. Shishi returned to the others in humiliation, shoulders drooping and his face bitter. The next person to go up was Xu Shaoan. Similar to Shishi, she had received some instructions from Tang Wuling. What's wrong with you? Are you depressed? Tang Wuling asked Shishi softly. Shishi laughed bitterly in response. That's right. I originally thought I was pretty amazing, but I don't think I did too well in this trial. Tang Wuling smiled calmly. It's fine. Actually, I think it's the opposite. I bet you scored quite highly. That grandmother is clearly the central figure among the 3 teachers. If she thought you were rotten with that couldn't be carved, would she have given you so much advice? Besides, we're students. We came to Shrek to learn. What would be the point of coming if we already know everything? Shishi was dumbstruck. That's right. I'm not horrible. The grandmother was just telling me how to make future progress. Tang Wuling patted him on the leg. Let's watch. Xu Shaoan stood in the center of the room and bowed to the 3 teachers. You may start, the old lady said. My sincerest apologies to the 3 examiners, Xu Shaoan said. I am unable to show you my specialty because it is still daytime. My martial soul is different at night. From a certain perspective, I can be considered a monster of a soul master. That is why I have come to Shrek. Moving the examiners with words alone was not an easy task. Tang Wuling knew this, so he had instructed her to immediately point out her uniqueness. Being a monster was Shrek's motto. Calling herself one would instantly draw the attention of the examiners. Oh, then how are you different at night? The examiner on the old lady's left asked. Shu Shaoan summoned her ice staff and grabbed it with her right hand, 2 yellow soul rings rising as she did so. During the day, my martial soul is just the ice staff, which excels at controlling the battlefield and long-ranged attacks. At night, I gain the power of starlight, and my martial soul transforms into the Star Wheel ice staff, changing my soul skills. A spark of excitement appeared in the old lady's eyes. I know of the Star Wheel ice staff. It came from the Shu family long ago, but not many of them had it. Your surname is Shu. The old lady's words took Shu Shaoan by surprise. That's right. You know about my family. The old lady smiled calmly. There are very few things in the world of soul masters that Shrek doesn't know about. You can go back now. Shu Shaoan gaped at her, but I'm not done explaining. The old lady's brow wrinkled. Since I know about your origins, why wouldn't I know about the absolute control of your starlight soul skills? Now go on back to your friends. Oh. Shu Shaoan bowed again before leaving. Tang Wuling was already standing to welcome Shu Shaoan back, nodding with approval. You did great. Relax. His words of assurance caused the tension to flow out of her body. Tang Wuling walked past her toward the center of the room. The old lady inspected Tang Wuling curiously. You seem quite confident. Huh? Her words caught him off guard, but he quickly realized his mistake and bowed. Greetings to the 3 examiners. The old lady smiled strangely. They seem to trust you. Show me what you can do. Show me. Why they have so much faith in you. Yes. Tang Wuling didn't explain himself. He now realized that the 3 examiners had likely heard everything he whispered into Shishi and Shu Shaoan's ears. They were truly formidable, worthy of being teachers of Shrek Academy. My speciality is power, he said. A golden light flashed in his eyes and his blood essence erupted outward. In a world of his own, he could hear the sound of his blood pumping through his veins like a mighty river. His right arm swelled with strength, golden scales covering it. Then a golden soul ring appeared. Shock wiped the smile off the old lady's face, her eyes wide at the resplendent soul ring. Beside her, the other 2 examiners similarly gaped at the sight before them. All of the colors of soul ring could be had long since been established in the world of soul masters. White represented a 10-year soul ring, yellow meant 100-year, purple stood for 1,000-year, black indicated 10,000-year, and red signified 100,000-year. Normal soul rings could be one of those 5 colors. However, in the entire history of the Douluo continent, soul rings with special colors had appeared. The appearance of such a soul ring signified immense power. In the history of Shrek Academy, a golden soul ring had appeared once. Tang San of the original Shrek 7 monsters, the founder of the Tang sect, had killed a million-year soul beast and obtained a golden soul ring. Yet million-year soul rings had only appeared twice in the history of the Douluo continent. The second person to possess a million-year soul ring was the legendary figure that the plaza was named after, the founder of the Spirit Pagoda, Spirit-Eyes Douluo Huo Yuao. However, Huo Yuao's million-year soul ring was different from Tang San's. His was white and could easily be disguised as a 10-year soul ring. According to the analyses of later generations of soul masters, Tang San's million-year soul ring had been directly obtained from a soul beast, resulting in its golden color. Huo Yuao, on the other hand, had been lucky enough to fuse with the million-year sky dream ice worm which had slept all the way until it reached the million-year level. This was the supposed reason for the difference in color. Although the Spirit-Eyes Douluo's soul ring became very powerful, it wasn't on par with Tang San's golden soul ring. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.